All right, good afternoon, everybody. So, I tried something new this time, doing it on the weekend, but clearly a lot of people aren't showing up. So we're definitely gonna have another call for sure. Um, I'll make this one a little bit less formal since there's so few people on here right now. Number one question is, has everybody checked into Core Connects and validated that their share amount is correct? If you have or have not, can you please put a comment um, in the comment section to confirm whether you have or you have not, and if the numbers are accurate? If you have and the numbers are accurate, just comment yes and yes. Okay, Rosalind. So Rosalind, so yeah, so for everybody on here, okay. So for everybody on here, Core Connects has been updated. Everybody's share amount should be reflected correctly. And if you read the newsletter, you know why this is going to be important. Okay, AJ, you're good. Brian's good. Okay. Everybody else. Okay, so Herb, okay, Herb, if you send another email to us, because we did have a lot of people we were communicating with, so we want to make sure we get everybody. So if you did not get a response, please send another email today, and we'll get that taken care of. Okay, Cooper. So great point. So what we decided to do, Cooper, instead of showing reinvestment shares, we just increased the value of the shares to reflect all the accrued distributions and accumulation of what you would be owed. So for instance, if you were in this from the beginning, the original share value was $50 a share. Now it's 75. So that's a 50% increase. So that includes the value of the property that's gone up and also the accrued distributions and dividends. It's a simpler way for us to do the accounting because trying to do it every year and keeping up with all the details of with the previous method was very costly. It's the funds and the platforms are set up for the big $50 million projects. And so, the cost of that accounting and that back end stuff was 50, $60,000 a year. And it just didn't make sense for us to do it that way. So we just wanted to capture everybody's value. So just increase the share amount. Rosalind joined during COVID and never looked back. That's funny. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna go over to the newsletter now, y'all. Let's see, share. Just want everybody to be on the same page. So, when we started the project, everything was looking really good in Fifth Ward. We were right on the forefront of all the activity that was coming to the area. We bought at the right time. We bought on great terms with seller financing, 1.25 million. And we inherited a full house. All the tenants were there. All we had to do was really do some maintenance and upkeep on the property, and a few renovations to make sure that everything was stable. And then we had to renovate the building that became the pier space. And so within the first year, the value went from 1.2 to 1.8 million. So that was really good. And we had a long run, 3 or 4 years, which is really kind of an anomaly in real estate with being a landlord, having that many good years. But as the economy started to turn in the last, I would say 24 months, it started trickling down to our tenants' ability to pay and those types of things. And so we went through a period towards the end of last year, the beginning of this year, where a few tenants just stopped paying. And then I guess Murphy's Law kind of happened at the same time where everything was going on with the eviction process and everything. And so we had a lot of delays with that. Um, but all in all, the goal of this project was never for us to become rich, right? It was to show that we could socially impact the community, invest, and still make a return. So the best thing that we did was buy a property at the right location at the right time. And we weren't dependent strictly on cash flow. A lot of investors do depend strictly on cash flow. They'll buy in stagnant markets where prices don't go up at all. And so if the cash flow goes away, you're dead in the water and you end up losing money on a deal. Well, as of the last appraisal we got, the value was right at 2 million. And so what I'm about to do next is that since we have had some turnover with tenants, we had to evict 4 of them. If you read the newsletter, you know that, but we'll go through that a little bit here. Um, But also, we now have the opportunity to renovate those units and increase the rent. And when we increase the rent, we're going to increase the value of the property. That's the beautiful thing about commercial property. It's not valued like residential. On the residential side, whatever the comps are for the three most comparable home sales right around your property, that determines what the value of your property is. When you're doing commercial, though, it's based strictly off of the net profits and the revenue from the property. So every time you raise rents on a commercial property, you increase the value, whether the house next door burned down or it's vacant, it doesn't matter. So, we have an opportunity now that the tenants are out. We fulfilled our mission of not raising their rents, letting them stay as long as they could on good terms. And now we can take those other units, increase the rents, and not price the local community out. We'll be able to entice a little bit better quality tenant. And since the Section 8 voucher rate has gone up, our rents will still be below the peak for Section 8 so that those tenants can still come in. But for each unit that we have, we can increase the rent about $500 and still benefit the same community group that's in Fifth Ward right now. So, in addition to just the tenant stuff, we had a lot of weather-related issues this year. And I'm telling y'all this now, and I know a lot of y'all are wondering what took so long for this to come out, but I said in the letter, I don't like, even though things are said to happen at a certain time, I don't like coming to you with information and I don't have the solution for it yet. So I felt it made more sense to hold off until we got all these things rectified and we had a plan moving forward before we got back on here to talk about it. So, yeah, we did have the tornadoes earlier in the summer. We had some mild damage, trees down. The same thing with the hurricane. Thankfully, we had no serious damage. So we are filing insurance claims on some of those units. So that'll actually offset some of the costs that we would have had incurred anyway doing the renovations, getting ready for the refresh for the entire property. And I went through a little bit of history to remind everybody because it's been a few years since we talked about all these tenants that we had and the condition of the property when we first got it. And just the impact that we really were able to have on these people. Miss Foster was the first person I met when I was walking the property the first time to try to put it under contract. And she had saw the other people that were coming through there. They didn't look like the community. They were scared that everybody's gonna get kicked out. And then when I told her what my plan was, what we were gonna do, she was very happy. And for us to have carried this for 5 years and fulfilled all those points of the mission, I feel like we've done a really great job of being good stewards of the community and creating and showing and proving that this model really can work. Collectively investing and collectively protecting groups in our neighborhoods. And then, some of the other folks in there, just Mr. Bonet is a really nice older guy. His English is very broken. He comes from Central America, but he's been living there for a very long time and, over 10 years. And, this is some of the excerpts of some of the conversations that they had with the Houston Chronicle when they came out. Um, he's like, I feel so safe here. I can leave my car unlocked. And that's in Fifth Ward. And everybody says Fifth Ward is the worst neighborhood in the city. Well, one of the worst, but it's really not, especially not in our little cul-de-sac because we've created an environment that all the tenants feel protected. And then I think one of the highlights is the story with Miss Doris, who had been living there for 32 years, 31 years when we bought it, and her son was living with her. Um, yeah, and so she stayed there. At her age, she was like, I didn't have anywhere else to go if they would have somebody else would have bought it and raised the rent. So I'm really thankful that they bought it. And then, yeah, she passed away like 2 years after we bought it. So those types of stories are really powerful. So yeah, so when it comes to those evictions we had to do. So another part of me doing this project is letting y'all get the full experience of what it's like to be a landlord without having to take on the risk of being a landlord. So, we've been managing all that. Me and my team, Brittany, who's on the call, and my property managers. We've been going through it, trying to deal with the civil courts, trying to get a few of these folks out that stopped paying. So, and what's funny is, well, not funny, but just for transparency, the people that we are evicting were not part of the original group of tenants that we inherited. These are people that, after certain of the original inheritance, the original tenants moved out. These were the second generation tenants that were brought in. They just weren't the same quality of people. So of course, some of them stopped paying their rent faster. I think the other ones, they're so loyal to the property because they had been there for so long. Like we don't have any issues out of any of them. But Yeah, so going through the process with this and then all these natural disaster events happening, the city of Houston and the courts are very slow to uh, move swiftly when it comes to evictions because they know that's going to just add more head count on the streets in most cases, especially if there's not a lot of housing inventory available. So we dealt with a lot of those challenges. Finally got all that rectified, and we did have one squatter that came in. So another landlord lesson. So this guy he knew the landlord laws well enough to walk through the property, find one unit that was vacant, turn the utilities on in the unit. And after 30 days, if the utilities have cut on and he can get a utility bill, when you try to remove him from the property from trespassing or breaking, entering, anything, when the police get there, he's going to show that utility bill and he's going to say, "No, I'm a tenant." And the second he does that, the police and the sheriff, they have no jurisdiction. It immediately triggers that going over into a civil matter. So you have to go fight in a civil court. So we had to do that with that guy. But we finally got him out, um, and rid of possession from the property about a month ago. And that's one of the units we're going to be making over for sure. So dealing with a lot of those things, but I think, like I said, it's a gift and a curse because if all of our original tenants were still there, um, and still at their original locked in rent rates, it would have gone against our mission to try to renovate and raise the rents on everybody. So this actually is working out well for everybody involved. And so in this process, so when you're since we're really considering packaging up the property and selling it, one of the important factors is the management that's in place for the property. Because if a property is performing well, and you're the owner operator, then a buyer or an investment group that's looking to buy the property that doesn't want to be hands on and become a, a landlord that's actively managing every single day, they won't have interest in the property because there's no system in place. So what we're doing now is we're bringing in a property management group that has experience, that has a proven track record, and if we package it up and sell it, then they can stay in place. So then whoever the buyer is can say, hey, well, Chris and his team are leaving, and that means everything's going to go to crap. We don't want to buy it. Now they're going to say, okay, well, no, they have put the right management team in place. So we're inheriting the management team along with the property assets and the tenants. And so John has been working with us for about 3 or 4 months now. He's done a great job of getting our things back on track, automating some systems that we didn't have automated correctly. Well, technology updated correctly because we were very lenient with the tenants on letting them still pay with money orders because that was convenient for them. Let them pay several different times of the month as their paychecks came in. And so, but John's been able to go in there and talk to them. A lot of them are older too, so they're not used to technology. They're kind of stuck in their ways. But he's been able to go in and talk to them and get everybody to convert over to a system that he has where all payments go through him, and the payments it's almost the same process as going to the store to get a money order, but instead of doing that, you're just sending it through like a Western Union or something to pay. So that's been pretty beneficial as well, streamlining that process. And he's also working on getting the full renovation budget together for us because he has an in-house contracting team that does construction work. Um, so they'll be able to give us some numbers on that. I do have an outside bid for the work too, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about on the next call when I figure out exactly what the numbers are going to be for the renovation of the property. We're looking at probably 15,000 to like $20,000 per house. But once we get to the bottom of this, I'm going to show you why that investment would make us a good return on the property and increase the property value. And so this is what I talked about earlier, y'all. So if anybody has any issues with Core Connects, it took us a while to get them together. Well, it took them a while to get themselves together. They really just didn't have the back end utilities that we needed for everybody to see, like, number one, what your original share price was when you bought your shares, what the current share price was, what the current share price is. And so now they have that capability. They also have the capability now to handle the buying and selling of shares. So if for any reason we decide not to sell, we would be able to facilitate that on the platform now instead of us doing it manually, like how we've been doing it before, with everybody filling out the form and everybody having to be contacted individually for that. You know, when I first started this project, the Black-owned platform that I was partnered with, By the Block, had told me that they had all that capability, and they just really didn't have it. And so since we had already closed on the fund and I'd already committed to everybody that we would have that ability to buy and sell shares every year, we had to just go through that process manually. So, but now thankfully they've got it all set up on their site. They've got their third party SEC transfer agents, who is a legal entity that's, we had to hire a real estate SEC attorney on the side to facilitate that part for us because the platform didn't have that in-house staff, but now they do. So, all that's going to be good. And also it'll make the process for the exit. When we sell, it'll make the buyout of everybody a whole lot easier and a lot more streamlined than what it's been in the past. So, but yeah, so if anybody has any issues, just make sure you email Brittany and we'll make sure we get everything covered. Just housing market in general in Houston, it's pretty much reflecting everything across the country. It's a lot slower, especially on the single family side. You're seeing active listings up 30%. That means people aren't buying as fast. Closed sales are up 1%, but that's really because people are discounting prices to get things sold. And that's still a small fraction of the 30% of active listings that you see out there. And so, last year, there was 2.5 months of inventory available. This year's 3.5 months of inventory available. So everything's just slowed down. Um, let's see, that was quarter 1. And then quarter 2, you see the number just went up. So 42% of active listings, 3% of closed sales. So that means so many more houses are on the market that more people are taking discounts off of the price of their homes to get them sold. Okay. So like I said, when we started this project, the focus was to create revenue returns from revenue, but mainly from value appreciation because we were buying in an area that we knew that there was a lot of redevelopment going on and value was going to go up, and we could get our ROI out of that. So that's really what we've done. We've proven this concept has worked. I mean, we bought it for 1.2 million. It's probably worth about, I'm guessing, 2.2 right now without us getting the official appraisal. So I mean, yeah, even the tax rolls, if you're looking what the tax roll says, it says a 1.9 million between the two parcels on the property. So, and tax rolls are always lower than the actual market value. So we're doing good there. We insulated ourselves against like just the people not paying rent or whatever because the value is going up so much. And so when I originally started this fund in 2019, I projected a 7-year time horizon for us to hold the project, and then figure out what an exit strategy would be, or what next steps would be if we would roll it into a phase 2 and buy other people out that wanted to get out. But since the economy has softened, we have to be cognizant of sound investment strategies and approaches and not be speculative. And so right now, I feel like while the values are still up, while you know, the East River project is still performing well with what they've built, and we're about to go through this election cycle where usually, interest rates are going to drop because they want the economy to look as favorable as possible during election season. And right after election season too, whoever gets in office is going to want to make it look like they did something great as soon as they move in. It's the same thing that happens every political cycle. It's the perfect time for us to say, hey, it makes sense for us to really, really, really analyze what are our next steps, because we can exit. And I don't want to just exit and just put it on the market and sell it. When I say exit, I'm saying maybe close out the crowd fund for now. Everybody can realize the gains that we've had with it, and then everybody can regroup. Maybe we find another project to do. But honestly, I probably won't do one like this with so many investors at such a low threshold for entry because it's really hard to manage that many people, and as hard as you try, it's hard to keep up with everybody. A lot of people have financial issues and hurdles, and it kind of throws things off when we have to go outside of protocol and you know help people out to recoup their investment funds. So if I do another one, it will be a lot higher investment threshold, probably like $5,000 to get in. But I'm not even certain what project I would identify to do that with. But so the goal with this would be to sell it to either one investor, that somebody from the community that has the capital that wants to buy it. So we keep it, we continue to buy the block message and mission, and so we're not selling outside the community. Or maybe a small group of investors from the buy the block project want to put capital up together to buy it out, buy everybody out. I'll look at that option too. Third option may be if I have to get some equity players from the community to close it out. Maybe we could do that too. But still going to explore all those options right now. But this is why I want to just kind of show you the numbers on what we could do. So, like I said, the value right now is about probably between 2 and 2.2 million. The cap rate, which is how property value for a sale is determined, is like 5.7%. So that means whatever you buy something for, whatever these multifamily investors are buying something for, they want to get a 5.7% return on their money every year. And so if we increase the total rents on the property by 950 by $9,500, that's about a little over $500 per door per month. So in 1 year, that increases the total rent revenue to $114,000. Well, if you want to get a 5.7% return, you would pay up to $2 million to get $114,000 a year. So that means that can increase the property value up to $2 million. Now, what we also have to consider is what it's going to cost us to get the rent up there, which is going to be all the renovation costs. So that's that $15,000 to $20,000 a year. $20,000 per door. I was telling you. So, it does cost money to get this higher valuation on the property, but, I think it's something that's feasible and possible. So, 2.2, if we get up to 3.1, 3.2, that still be great, even if we don't get all the way up to, let's say, 4 million. So that's what we're considering now. I mean, you have the renovation component of it, then you also have the lease up component of it. So finding the quality tenants that either already have Section 8 vouchers or they earn enough individual income to pay. So right now, our lowest rents are still like $600, $650. So for a 1 bedroom, raise that rent to like $1,150. And then a 2 bedroom, maybe $1,350. So, finding people those are still very reasonable prices in the Houston market. To say you're in the city right by downtown next to all the redevelopment. And, hopefully, and the target would also be to hire, I mean, to uh, obtain a little bit higher quality tenant from the community, the ones that actually have decent employment, and just want to stay there, but don't want to overextend themselves. Make these units basically like they will feel like apartments that are detached, versus just the condition of them now is just, older, well-kept homes for older people from the community that just want to stay in the community. So, and a little bit more about East River. I just want to show y'all some of this because I'm taking these excerpts from their site, not the commentary on the left. That's my commentary, but it's really thriving. If y'all remember, this was nothing but dirt when we started. And so, like I said, even though some of the commercial components of the project are slowed as far as their growth, they haven't been able to secure as many anchor commercial tenants for the next few phases. They have done a great job with what they have out there, keeping a lot of activity going on, a lot of different events going on. And it's been really beneficial for the community. And this is the view of it. This was all dirt when we first bought the property. So this is the first phase. This is the apartment complex on the right with the brick building, office building on the left, and then behind it where all the trees are, there's more community space. And then um, further away, there's even more where the golf course is and everything. So it's looking really good. They even have these open air markets. So Black Market Houston is one of the largest pop-up retail events in Houston. They do them twice a month. They have 10 to 15,000 people come out. And they used to host them in Pearland, South Houston. But now they're hosting them all in East River right there in Fifth Ward. So it's pretty cool to see those types of things come back directly to the neighborhood. And so, yeah, so if anybody that is on here or has been a part of the project has already expressed interest about selling or buying shares, there's an opportunity for you to still fulfill whatever request you had. However, since we're evaluating selling, we're not going to open everything up like we did every other year because that was really done to allow people to have some type of liquidity. You know, like if you buy a stock, you can elect to sell it any day. However, when you invest in crowd funds, usually majority of them, you can't get your money back. You can't ask to sell shares. You're in it until whatever term they said they were going to keep your money, and then they tell you if they made enough money to pay you back or not, or to buy you out or not. But I facilitated this every year, which is a lot of extra work. Just creating a secondary market is what it's called, where people can buy more sales shares or sell their shares if they wanted to. But like I said, now that we're at the end of most likely going to exit the project, it wouldn't make sense for us to have open up that whole operation again right at the time when we're about to close because we really need to button up everybody's current shareholdings and tie that to what the exit value of the property is going to be, what the sale price is going to be. So if you have any questions about that, if you've already inquired about it and you need to sell whatever shares you have left, just let us know. The company will buy them back and we'll hold them until the property actually sells. So with that, that's all I really have for tonight. Like I said, once I get more detail on the costs and the real breakdowns of next steps and what we see as the real projected value, that $2 million number of increase is what's possible and what's practical. But I want to be realistic and make sure we don't overshoot our potential goal and do something practical that makes sense for everybody. And it may also make sense for us just to sell it at a slight discount, especially if we're going to keep somebody from the community as the owner, so we can kind of continue our mission and our message. But like I said, everybody will still make returns off of your investment, but we just won't price gouge or try to squeeze every penny out of it. We'll make it a good deal for both parties. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Hey, Chris. One question I had was, have you explored, or are there any like hurdles or benefits that you see of keeping the two commercial parts with the residences or splitting them or
Yeah, that's a good question, Brian. So the one that would make the most sense to keep would be probably the Peer Space building because it does have good cash flow. But the challenge is keeping that one building. It's kind of hard to do with the amount of shareholders we have involved. So the only clean way to do it is to really exit everything. Um, and maybe break those out to smaller groups of investors that want to hold those individual assets separately, Um, but it would the size of the deal doesn't yield to a good way for us to separate all that out and break all that out because all the extra accounting and legal work would be very cumbersome.
yeah, I was just curious, like if it does it make it harder to find a buyer with having commercial properties attached or
Oh, okay, good question. So the value that I have on there is what my mentors taught me. Like when you're selling something mixed use, you always zero out the commercial. So you assume no revenue coming from commercial at all, so that it doesn't affect the price or the underwriting. So they're basically getting two vacant buildings that they could just turn into community centers if they wanted to for the residents. But yeah, unless there's a credit-worthy commercial tenant in those spaces, we don't count that revenue because you're right. It does deter some buyers if they're depending on that to be part of the valuation.
cool. Thanks for the insight.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay, anybody else? Felicia?
Hi, Chris. Hi, this is Felicia. Thank you
Felicia.
for the information.
Mhm.
Um, will there be any calls or meetings to connect those of us in the current group who may want to collaborate to move towards a purchase, or is it
Yes.
kind of we gotta figure out how to find each other?
No, 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 no. If you have interest, just send the email to me and Brittany. Respond to one of the previous communications we have, and let us know what your interest is, and we'll connect everybody.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Tiffany.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Thank you again for this call. Just wondering if you have thought about any updates for us as far as how is progressing with getting proposals for the renovations and moving towards the sale. Like, will we do, 2 months from now, catch up, or how do you plan to update us?
Yeah, so I've gotten the one estimate back already. So my goal is to have it within a month to have the updated numbers and everything because I don't want to drag it out too long. We need to move quickly, and anybody that does want to sell or need to sell, I want to make sure we're moving timely for keeping that in mind as well. So I'm saying by this time next month, we'll have all the bids in for the work, and I have talked to a couple of commercial brokers on valuation based off of the renovations that we're going to do, and I'll be able to come back with more solid updates for everybody. So we'll do a Zoom call then as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I'll probably have our attorneys come on too, kind of talk to everybody about the process for the exit. So everybody has a full understanding of the process. All right. Anybody else have a question?
I do.
Hey,
Excuse
Ruth.
me. When I first came on the call, you were talking about you asked a question about Cornex.
Core
So
connection.
I just wanted to know what you were asking about that.
Okay, so yeah, so if you were here with us from the beginning, we started off with a platform called Buy the Block, and they were the ones that took everybody's initial information on, how many shares you bought, all your personal information from tax ID, everything, payment platforms, banking information, and then about a year into the project, Buy the Block shut down, and when they shut down, they went MIA. So a lot of the information I didn't personally have accessible, so I switched over to Core Connects. But then a lot of those platforms at that time were over promising what their capability was, what the capacity was, or the timeline to actually provide those services. So what's been happening, Ruth, for the past couple of years is Core Connects wasn't accurate. They just didn't have the back end to reflect all the details we needed to know. And their process just wasn't efficient. So we were doing a lot of things manually, where everybody was filling out a form, and then I was getting with the attorneys were sending it back to us in the accounting department. And that's how we were keeping up with everything. Well, now Core Connects has finally gotten everything up to date after 4 years. And so now Brittany and I and our team have went through and scraped and combed through everybody's investment amounts and all the emails requesting corrections, and all the information should be updated in Core Connect now and reflect correctly. So one or two people saying they still see a discrepancy there. But if you can log into yours as well and verify that the number one, the share amount is correct. The share amount is correct, then that's the most important thing, because right now all the share values are reflecting $75 per share. Yeah, I'll put it in.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So go to coreconnects.com. Whenever you originally bought your shares, whatever email address you used, you can just put that email address in the login information. If you haven't been in there before, you can just hit the button that says reset password or forgot password, and then it'll send you a link to put a new password in, and then you can just get into your account that way. And then if that doesn't work, I'll just give you the support at Core Connect. You can also email support@coreconnects.com if you have any other challenges or issues or questions about how to get into the account. All right, anybody else? No problem, everybody. Okay, well, y'all have a good night. There'll be more communications. If you have any questions after this, feel free to send us an email. We'll be able to get back to you as quickly as possible. And appreciate everybody for being a part of this. It's been a half a decade we've been doing this now, so it's pretty good to see that we still have so many people engaged and want to be a part of it. So everybody have a good night, and we'll talk to y'all later.